A biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
Let's turn our attention to trying to get the lives of prisoners back together, back on track, after being released from doing time for committing a crime. Well, you might be familiar with the work of Prison Fellowship, with a long history of reaching prisoners and helping to reintegrate after serving time in prison. Prison Fellowship wants to connect with churches who can help to resettle former prisoners. Steve Farr is State Manager for Prison Fellowship for New South Wales and the ACT. Hey Steve, welcome along to 2020.
Hey Neil, thanks for having me.
Steve, you're in charge of big territory, New South Wales and ACT, the largest prison population in the nation. How many prisons are in your area?
Yeah, we've got 37 reaching from the top of New South Wales near Grafton. The largest prison's called Clarence, 1,400 bed prison there, and all the way out to Broken Hill and a whole bunch between there. And then there's obviously a whole bunch in Sydney, and then right down south through Canberra, Australia's capital, down to Junee, Cooma. Yeah, so that's adult prisons. That's 37 in all that we've got in our reach, which represents about 15,000 inmates at the moment.
Okay, 15,000 inmates, and everyone's serving a sentence. Almost all of them will be out in some sort of stretch after they've completed their time. You're looking for churches who can help to partner with Prison Fellowship to make a difference here for those prisoners who find themselves outside of jail but trying to reintegrate. How does all that look?
Yeah, so that's, I guess our vision and dream is to be able to connect with churches and pastors who would make room in their heart as a church family for inmates and their families to become what we call restoration hub churches. And so these are just churches that do exactly that and partner with us and say, hey, put us on your map. And so that we've then got visibility. Even on our website, people can see that these are churches that would make room. And then out of these churches, we want to raise volunteers that can become mentors to engage and connect with inmates as they come out to, really make room. And I guess for me, Neil, it's firstly a mentor. It's someone from the life of the church that would be a mentor, that would be a support, like a splint or a broken arm. Then they need practical help, find a job, get accommodation. They need community, which is where a church comes in. They need to have a place that can call home and know that they're, going to be welcomed and supported and that type of thing. Like takes a village to raise a child principle. Well, same kind of thing. They have positive peer group to church, and then they got a massive journey in the process of renewing their thinking, their mind, and then there's often the need to be equipped and empowered in different spheres of life. And so that's, in essence, what we'd like to be able to see churches raise up volunteers to be able to do that so that we can change the narrative.
And Steve, Prison Fellowship runs on the board, a long history now, dating right back to Chuck Colson, who was a chief advisor to a former US President Richard Nixon and imprisoned for obstructing justice during the Watergate inquiry back in the 1970s. And all this time, the Ministry of Prison Fellowship has just gone global, and here in Australia, well established, and part of that is getting prisoners back into the regular swing of life, and churches have a big role to play here. What is it so special about churches that actually help the process of someone who has been an offender and now they're out and now they're looking to get their life back on track?
Well, if the gospel doesn't work with everybody, then, we're in trouble. And I think it does work. I've been seeing, like, even in one of the prisons here in Sydney, in like last year alone, Neil, we we run a course called the Prisoner's Journey that presents the gospel to inmates. And by invitation, they come and they go on a journey. And over an 8-session experience, seeing guys presented with the gospel of who is Jesus and what did he do for me and why did he die and rise again. And, in that one particular prison and 12-month process, Neil, we've seen 30% of the inmates presented with the gospel. And that's led to chapel services growing and guys hungry to want to walk with Jesus. And that's exciting. And if we see that change when they're inside, then when they do come out, our desire and prayer is they want to keep walking with Jesus. And we're all called to make disciples. And that's what the call on churches is about, to make disciples, followers of Jesus. And this ought to include inmates who are going to be challenged when they step out into the world. And, look, Neil, the recidivism rate in New South Wales alone is the highest. It's 50%. So every 10 guys coming out, or girls coming out, the statistics say 5 are going to go back in. It's a revolving door. And so I think that we as the body of Christ have got an opportunity to do what Jesus asked us to do, and that's to share good news to the least of these. When I was hungry, I was naked, you clothed me, you fed me. But also said I was in prison and you visited me. And I think that this is a call to our faithfulness as the body of Christ to the least of these, including prisoners who, for all intents and purposes, are the most forgotten in society.
Steve, a lot of prisoners find Christ in jail, as you have just testified. The recidivism rate, very high. You're talking about 5 out of 10, 1 in 2. So if you've got a church, and they might have to have some safeguards and some special things in place to do this, but you'd be cutting down the recidivism rate if there could be that sort of mentorship for getting these prisoners re-established. Is that the way it works? Is it as simple as that?
I wouldn't say it's simple. We're dealing with humanity, Neil, and the brokenness that we all contend with, and we're called to, Jesus wants to rebuild lives. Luke 4 says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because He's anointed me to what? Heal broken hearts." And I think that we, as the body of Christ, are called to be the hands and feet of Jesus towards the least of these, and to see how God can, through His good news, and that's where we give hope, and then we believe, faith, hope, and love. These three amazing pillars of the gospel, and I think this is where the church can come into play and just really provide answers. And there's wisdom needed, Neil. You just alluded to the wisdom needed of different types of inmates and stuff that would be coming out. And, I think that you would want pastors to have wisdom with their elders and to, certain crimes, if you're talking, sex offenders and stuff, then, there's opportunity to make room, put boundaries for individuals that can still find home. But in a men's group, for example, they could find home in a men's group where, they still can be supported, connecting, prayed for, believed in, contributing, but boundaries around, and that sort of stuff. And I'm passionate to even see churches that would even have services for people that maybe have to have boundaries. How good would that be? Just to provide a place for them to, still connect with Jesus, and but yet at the same time we're mindful of families and kids and everybody there that we need to have wisdom for and protect and keep that in mind. But it's time for us to think this way and open our hearts and our hands towards people and just make room.
There might be horses for courses, and it's not going to be every church community, as you say. But just reflecting back to, whatever you did for the least of these, my brethren, you've done unto me. And I've had a number of conversations just of recent times that listeners will have been tuning in for. There's a lot of things in our Christian life that are messy and that are hard and that take extra attention and extra skill perhaps to do. And this might be one of those, but it's not one that you just turn your back on. You can't ignore this. There's actually a call for Christians to rise to the occasion and support former prisoners.
You know, in my 1-year Bible this year, you know, I was taken through this passage, and you know, and I think that's the whole thing of, you know, one of the quotes in my 1-year Bible was Lord Langton was asked, "Do you know what the most important question from the Bible is?" And he answered by saying, Matthew 25:36, "When I was in prison, did you come to visit me?" And you know, I've been telling a story everywhere I go, Neil, about a young man whose name was Michael. And when I heard him tell his story, I just was so moved, because he was given a 10-year sentence at 20 years of age, and he lost hope. And he had a prison fellowship volunteer come visit him and started a conversation, and that conversation led to him opening his life to Christ. It opened him to thinking about the company he kept while in prison, and he realized he had a future and a hope. And it led to him thinking about his future, and in that 10 years, he completed 3 degrees, a business degree, a law degree, and something else in the days of floppy disks. And today he's married with a family and runs a law practice. And that is just a powerful example of how, you know, we can fulfill this call to faithfully reach the least of these as the body of Christ. And that's a story on the inside. And I think as inmates are changed in their heart on the inside, then we believe in it changes the trajectory of their life when they come out. But I think everyone needs community, and that's where the body of Christ comes into play, hey, Neil?
It's challenging, isn't it, Steve? Hey, 37 prisons in New South Wales and ACT, 15,000 prisoners. And this is just your neck of the woods, and there are prison fellowship outfits that are happening in all the states and territories all around Australia, and they've all got their prisons. You're looking to connect with local churches for the possibility of some ongoing mentoring for former prisoners, helping to adjust and find employment, securing some housing, rebuilding relationships. Those are the sorts of things. And no doubt there'll be some leaders who are thinking there are some people in our church that might just fit the bill for what Steve is looking for. To connect with Prison Fellowship, prisonfellowship.org.au. You mentioned the Restoration Hub churches. Is there a particular link on the website that takes you to how you find out about Restoration Hub churches?
Oh, look, now the best thing would be for anyone is just to reach our respective state managers and meet up, have a coffee, talk this through. And, you know, we got great state managers in each state, and just reach out and catch up. Let's come and have a conversation and talk this through, and see, like, you know, even sometimes churches go, "Oh, we're too small," you know. Let's not go there. You know, like every church, you know, you may have one person and they become part of the answer and a part of the team that we can build and so on. But, you know, there's other churches that are growing and have greater capacity of people resource and have thoughts. You know, we've seen such a growth in churches, Neil, with, you know, food banks and city care type ministries and helping certain aspects of the least of these. It's been, I think, so encouraging where the churches have been going in that. And I just love to see churches just stretch a little more in that space and start thinking about it. I met a pastor down in south of Sydney, down in a town called Bomaderry, and he runs a church called Salt Ministries, and 75% of his church are actively involved in the least of these ministries. And that's what his church is all about. They don't own a building, but they manage 42 properties. They house people, they feed people, they clothe people, they've got a farm, they run opportunity for jobs. It's phenomenal. I met with this guy, Peter Dover, he's a pastor there, just not long ago, and so inspired to think, here's a pastor that's doing this Matthew 25 stuff. And I said to him, mate, you got a prison right here near you. All you to do is close the deal and add prison ministry. He said, done, we're going to do that. And so that's the partnership example that I've had recently with him. And so we'd love to talk with pastors, and so they could just reach out to each respective state manager and catch up, and let's have the conversation and see where it can lead, and we can come and connect with churches and do a prison fellowship Sunday and just share the heart of our mission and vision and just start the partnership and go from there.
Well, it's prisonfellowship.org.au to connect with a state manager for prison fellowship in your state or territory. Steve Farr is state manager for prison fellowship for New South Wales and the ACT. Prisonfellowship.org.au. Steve, thanks so much for sharing these thoughts with us today on 2020.
Thanks, Neil. It's been an honour.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.